Watch as the mighty American Abrams turns Russian fortifications in the Kursk region into rubble, one brick at a time. 3 years ago, this would have sounded like a plot twist from an action movie. Today, just another Tuesday on the battlefield. In this epic showdown, the Abrams faces off against its Russian rival, the T90. We've analyzed how both tanks have performed in modern combat, and by the end of this video, you'll know which one comes out on top. The T90 hit the battlefield first in this war, and let's just say it hasn't had an easy time. According to Oryx, Ukraine has destroyed, damaged, or captured 176 T90s so far, including the T90A, T90AK, T90S, and the T90M. The T90M, nicknamed Breakthrough, was supposed to be Russia's ultimate combat tank. But as the war has proven, even the so-called best can end up as smoldering scrap metal. Modern warfare isn't the Hollywood-style tank-on-tank duels you might imagine. With drones and recon tech everywhere, tanks are rolling bullseyes. Both Ukraine and Russia now use them for lightning raids, tactical breakthroughs, or indirect fire from covered positions. Do these tactics work? Well, that depends on the day. Take this. In one fight, Ukrainian border guards wiped out 3 T90Ms using a deadly combo of landmines and FPV drones. This strategy is so effective it's practically a signature move now. Want proof? Check out this clip. 1 anti-tank mine plus 1 Chinese drone equals 1 very expensive Russian meltdown. Or how about this beauty? An FPV drone flies right into a T90's hatch, causing the whole ammo load to go boom. You've got to admire the drone pilot's precision. And if that's not enough, there are plenty of other videos where drones first disable a tank, then casually finish the job. But wait, there's more. Ukraine's homegrown Stugna-P ATGMs are another nightmare for Russian tanks. In one battle, a single Stugna strike stopped a T90 dead in its tracks with just 1 shot. The playbook is simple. Immobilize it, then let the drones have their fun. Here's how a Ukrainian paratrooper remembers taking down his first T90M breakthrough.
Це був перший постріл. Перші 2 постріли.
It was my first 2 shots and my first tank kill ever. Talk about beginner's luck or pure talent. If you're impressed, hit that like button and wish this sharpshooter many more hits like that. As you've seen, even the most advanced equipment can end up as expendable assets in the chaos of war. Could the Russians have used their T90s more effectively if they had ditched the headlong charge tactics? Maybe. But have Ukrainians learned from their adversaries' missteps to avoid similar mistakes? Let's dive in. According to the New York Times, Ukraine received 31 American M1 Abrams tanks, with 200 Ukrainian soldiers undergoing rigorous training in Germany beforehand. The first stage took place at the Grafenwehr training area, renowned for its advanced simulation facilities for heavy equipment, where crews mastered firing tactics and driving routes. Next, at nearby Hohenfels, Ukrainian tankers and infantry worked together in combined arms drills, training to operate as a cohesive battalion. Once trained, these crews headed straight to the front lines. Here's how Ukraine's head of military intelligence, Kirill Budanov, commented on their use. Abrams tanks need to be used in carefully planned, specific operations. If you throw them straight into the front lines, they won't last long on the battlefield. They're best deployed in breakthrough operations, but only those that are meticulously prepared. And here's what that looked like in practice. In the embattled city of Avdiivka, a Ukrainian Abrams crew targeted enemy positions using its 120mm smoothbore M256 cannon. The tank swiftly rolled in, suppressed the enemy, and pulled back to a safe zone. Thanks to its fire support, Ukrainian forces gained precious time to extract infantry from a sector under heavy Russian assault. Another major test for the Abrams came during the Kursk operation. Under the cover of smoke rounds, the tank supported an infantry assault, helping Ukrainian forces secure Russian positions. The Abrams made yet another strong impression in southeastern Ukraine, where it obliterated a building full of enemy troops and disrupted a Russian advance. Let's just say this steel titan probably won't be on any invader's wish list for future encounters. If you don't want to miss our upcoming videos showcasing powerful tank deployments, make sure to subscribe. Unfortunately, 31 tanks alone aren't enough to shift the tide of the war, though they can make a significant difference in localized operations. As Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky noted, it's hard for me to say that they will play a decisive role on the battlefield. Their numbers are just too small. In 2024, Ukrainians deployed the M1 Abrams in both defensive and offensive operations. Given the intense Russian efforts to hunt them down, it was only a matter of time before the first tanks were lost. In this footage, you can see a Russian drone shadowing one of these beasts in motion. Ultimately, the Russians managed to disable 5 Abrams tanks and even capture one. But let's put this into perspective. Ukrainians destroyed 72 T90M breakthrough tanks and captured 7 more. And that's just one variant of the T90 series. Use of these tanks across diverse weather conditions and the capture of Russian tanks have revealed the strengths and weaknesses of both vehicles. Let's compare them. First impressions? The Abrams is massive, weighing in at over 60 tons. Despite its bulk, it's surprisingly mobile and quick on dry terrain and roads. But when the landscape gets muddy, that weight becomes a liability. It's heavy and sinks into the mud. The filters are placed very low, so they clog with dirt instantly. That means the tank can stall and you have to step out mid-battle to clean the filter. And a stalled tank in a field? It's got about 1 minute to live. However, the Abrams compensates with cutting-edge technology, a powerful engine, a top-tier cannon, and a slew of crew-friendly features. And the T90? The T90M Breakthrough claims to weigh no more than 50 tons. But don't let that fool you. It's not exactly a mobility champion. The reason? Its outdated V84MS or V92 engine, which is essentially a heavily upgraded version of the World War II era V2 engine from the T34. In critical moments, T90s have been known to simply stall, leaving their crews to flee and abandon their tanks. And when that happens, well, Ukrainians gain a new ride. Take this soldier's account of capturing a T90M.
Зразу думали спалити його.
At first we thought about torching it, but I said, give me a couple more minutes. If I can't get it started, we'll burn it. Thank God it started, and we drove off. Another big difference is the loader in the Abrams. Unlike Russian tanks, which rely on an autoloader, the Abrams has a dedicated crew member for the job. The autoloader offers faster firing rates, but there's a catch. Russian crews sit right on top of their ammunition. If a T90M takes a hit to its ammo, the entire crew could go up in flames. The Abrams, on the other hand, stores its ammunition in the rear of the turret. This design includes blast doors that help protect the crew in case of an explosion.
22 снаряди знаходяться в такій каруселі.
22 rounds are stored in the carousel autoloader of the T90M. It's a spinning ammo rack that feeds shells up to the gun. Would you rather trade speed for safety? One of the M1 Abrams' standout features is its automatic fire suppression system, which activates instantly to save the crew in case of a fire. Russian crews, on the other hand, are left hoping their ammo doesn't decide to blow up. Spoiler: luck doesn't last forever. Take a look at these clips. This is what the inside of a T90M breakthrough looks like after an ammunition detonation. Do you think the Russian army prioritizes human lives? Yeah, that's rhetorical. Surprisingly, these tanks do share one similarity: armor protection. The export version of the M1 Abrams comes with Chabam armor, a British-developed composite protection system. It's a multi-layered mix of steel alloys, ceramics, plastic composites, and Kevlar. Ukraine has further upgraded its Abrams with dynamic armor and anti-drone nets to meet the demands of modern warfare.
Що називається, пройшли певну модернізацію.
These tanks underwent specific upgrades. Alongside the standard American active protection systems, they've been fitted with additional reactive armor known as Contact 1, which has proven quite effective. The T90M Breakthrough has its own dynamic protection system, Relict, a third-generation modular reactive armor, replacing the older Contact 5 system. So, whose armor wins the day? The Russian-Ukrainian war has shown that Western tanks, including Abrams, can often be repaired after taking a hit and returned to battle. Russian tanks? They're repairable after minor damage, but in most cases they either burn to a crisp or explode spectacularly, sometimes sending their turrets flying off. Russian losses have been so extreme that you'll now see Frankenstein tanks on the battlefield, like T80B VK hulls paired with T90A turrets. Can you imagine something this cobbled together in a Western army? Neither can we. Made in wherever. Another glaring difference between the M1 Abrams and the T90Ms is manufacturing independence. Abrams tanks are built entirely in the US, using American components and designs. Russia? Not so much. Critical parts of the T90, including electronics, rely on Western microchips and other imported components. Over 10 Western countries supply Russia with the tech it needs to manufacture its advanced tanks. Now imagine trying to win a war when your best tank relies on parts from the countries you're fighting against. Wild, isn't it? Imagine this. The parts needed to manufacture sites for the T90M Breakthrough come from the Italian company MTSRL, while Austria's EMCO GmbH supplies the equipment to produce shell casings for field and tank artillery. And these are just two examples. Now, imagine if Russia were genuinely isolated and couldn't access these technologies. Would it still claim the title of the world's second most powerful army? Doubtful. It's hard to see North Korea or Iran filling in the gaps. If we compare the T90M Breakthrough to Soviet tanks, it does have its strengths. Its fire control system calculates shooting parameters automatically. Both the gunner and the commander have their own thermal imaging sights, and the commander benefits from a panoramic sight with a wide field of view. Its armor has also been improved in all directions. However, the tank also carries some drawbacks. It inherited a modernized, but essentially outdated, chassis, engine, and cannon from its Soviet predecessors. While these components may seem impressive on paper, they frequently break down in practice, leading to scenarios where Russian crews abandon their T90s on the battlefield. The T90M Breakthrough is not a revolutionary tank. It's more of a refined Soviet design. It still lags behind NATO tanks, including the M1 Abrams, which boasts a better cannon, engine, electronics, and armor, and offers its crew significantly better chances of survival in critical moments. The M1 Abrams has thicker frontal armor and better protected crew compartments, proving that for the United States, the crew is more important than the vehicle itself. When the crew is safe, the odds of completing the mission successfully increase dramatically. Did you know there's a 1997 video game where you get to defend Kyiv in an M1 Abrams? Yep, in the game's plot, Ukraine joins NATO and Russia, predictably, throws a tantrum and starts a war. Enter the American tanks, rolling in to save the day. Talk about foreshadowing. If you're into how video game arsenals align with real-world combat, hit the link in the top right corner. We've got a whole video on Stalker 2 where we break down how Soviet-era weapons from the game are making their mark in the Russian-Ukrainian war. Now, let's be real. No single tank, no matter how badass, can carry an entire battle. Wars are about way more than just steel and firepower. It's about the crew's skill, proper maintenance, smart tactics, solid logistics, the right weather, because mud is nobody's friend, and sheer numbers. So far, the Russian-Ukrainian war hasn't served up a Hollywood-style tank showdown between the M1 Abrams and the T90M Breakthrough. But hey, who's to say it won't happen down the line? If these two beasts ever lock horns on the battlefield, who do you think comes out on top? Cast your votes in the comments.